Good. Good evening. Time is 6 o'clock. We're going to call the meeting order. I'd like to welcome Gord McKibben and Craig Warden in the audience and Ruth Lockett's online. Councillor Lockett's online. Thank you. Next item is approval of the agenda. Motion reads that the agenda for the council meeting of Monday, March 4th, 2024 be approved as presented. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Kirkby, Councillor Young, thank you. Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor? Carried, thanks. Item 3 is declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest tonight? Seeing none, we're going to move on. There are no presentations this evening. There's no delegation this evening. So item 6.1 is approval of the minutes. The motion reads that the council minutes dated February 26, 2024 be accepted as presented. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Burton, Councillor Campbell. Any discussion on the last meeting's minutes? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Item 7 is communications and petitions, which there are none this evening. And under 8 is consent reports. So we have 2 items, the information package and the staff report, statement of remuneration and expenses. So is there anything you want to pull out of the information package? Councillor Kirkby?
Yes, I'd like to pull out the town of Lincoln.
Lincoln?
Increase funding to libraries and museums.
And would like that, yeah. Anything else?
That's all I have.
No. Anyone else? No? Okay. All right, so I'm going to call the motion that all items listed under the consent report section of the agenda, save and except for the item regarding the town of Lincoln, be accepted as presented. Mover and seconder. Councillor Young and Councillor Lockett, thank you. Any discussion on those? All in favor? Holy moly, we could be out of here in...
Don't say that.
I won't say that. Any committee reports this evening? It says none on my sheet, but just in case. And mayor meetings, when we have back-to-back meetings, there's not a lot to go over, but it's been good weather and town's moving along, so everything's good. So I'm going to move it on to outside boards, committees, and commissions, and we're going to start with Councillor Kirkby.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. So the first item that I have to share is the traffic light at Edward and Churchill has been adjusted to allow the flow of traffic from out on Churchill to Edward. So turning left or going straight has been extended during the daytime. Midnight to 4 p.m. is been extended from 14 seconds to 20 seconds. And then from 4 p.m. to midnight, from 14 seconds to 25 seconds. So that's pretty much the capacity that we have in that controller. To do an advanced green or more dynamic light schedule would require roughly around $50,000 in upgrades. So I think, the traffic has been flowing. We've had some good indications. Another big day at the rink there yesterday, over 600 people took in the senior game. So that's been a big one. Had some road work up on Churchill, a sanitary blockage. Quick response. They're still working on it as I came on the private residence part. So good response by the town and the contractor. And the one thing that's not on here that I'll mention, and it's not really, it's a bit of operations, but it's just a good thing to mention, is last night there was a hot transformer on Massey Drive, and Vito St. Lawrence was there to respond within 25 minutes. So, which was good. I talked to a couple folks up by the house today, and they were really happy. I believe it was Gene Brennan that called it in, and within 25 minutes they were there to respond. So great to have that kind of response time in Prescott. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor Kirkby. Councillor Campbell?
Nothing, except I'll be meeting with firemen tomorrow night.
Great, thank you. Councillor Burton?
Thank you. I have a library meeting tomorrow and that's about it for me.
Thank you. I'm going to go with Councillor Lockett.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I attended my first St. Lawrence Lodge meeting. It was extremely interesting. There was two presentations. The one that Leslie Burgess did was called the Case Mix Index Overview, and she went over actually pretty good detail of how they assess what each resident gets. I do have the presentation I can share if anyone's interested, but it was very good and they were very welcoming, and it was just a good first start for me with St. Lawrence Lodge. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Lockett. Councillor Young.
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I didn't attend any meetings, but just a few updates. The BIA annual general meeting will be held March 26th. We encourage all BIA members to come out. International Women's Day, the BIA had a small contest promotion, and we've awarded a ticket to Lamar on Main. Sorry. And the pop-up applications are going well, and they close this week.
You know how many we have?
Dana?
We're at 8 total at this point. We're over applied.
8
Not
for
available
5 or 6 spots?
for 6 spots. Sorry, 7 spots.
7.
7 spots, yes.
Okay.
And then there's a few short-term vendors that have come in as well that we're trying to accommodate.
And is our shed, when will our new shed come?
That will be delivered May 1st.
May 1st, okay. So, thank you. Sorry, Tracy. Anything else?
That's everything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McConnell?
Thank you, Mayor Shankar. I had no meetings since we last met, which was last Monday. Kind of unusual, but owing to the circumstances, we're a week in. I would like to make a comment though to Ruth, who is new at the St. Lawrence Lodge board. I spent 8 years on that board. And once a year you are, you have to take a tour of the lodge. And the idea is you take a tour of a different part of the lodge every year. And Ruth, you'll enjoy this if you haven't been through the lodge before. What I would suggest in one of the next couple of years is you take a tour of the lower floor where the kitchen is, where the mechanics are. It's quite interesting as to how the whole lodge actually operates. And it's not a tour that a lot of board members take, but I think it's very good to know how the lodge actually functions from a lower level, and it's very well done, very well built. As I said, I didn't have any meetings this week, but I would like to comment on something that I've seen on Facebook that I've seen in the news, and that is wishing a happy birthday to such a nice man that we have in Prescott here. I bump into him in the marina walking once in a while. John Vanderzide, who is, well, he's actually 96, but he was born, interestingly enough, in leap year. So he's only 24 legally. And there was quite a piece about him that I read, and he was actually born in Holland, went through the Second World War, through the winter of famine that they had over there. He mentioned that they actually had to eat the family cat, which, having a pet, I can't imagine having to go that far, to be in that much desperation. But he immigrated to Canada. He built a successful business as a contractor, and he's lost his voice box due to cancer. But he communicates with a little pad, and he writes on it, and he can get the odd thing out. And he's got the greatest enthusiasm for life. You would never believe the man is 96. And he's a relatively new resident of Prescott. He was in Augusta Township, of course, for many years, where he built many houses, and is just a wonderful example of the positiveness of life, no matter where you've come from, what you've gone through. So I'd like to wish John a belated happy birthday, which was the 29th, but it wasn't that long ago.
Oh, wow. Very nice. All right. We have 4 staff reports tonight. 12.1 is staff report 16-2024. It's the fire department's year-end report for 2023. This is coming from our chief, Rennie Rayner. You've got the floor, sir.
Thank you, your worship. I'll get moved to the podium. Unfortunately, you've done such a great a way of getting through your council and so far quickly, so I will try and go quickly as well. So it's basically just going to be a PowerPoint, and if you have any questions during that, please bring forward to me, and hopefully I'll be able to answer it for you. So the first slide, it just shows everything's going to show over 5 years, and that just shows in 2023 we had a total of 188 calls. So no rhyme or reason for some year being higher than others, could be attributed to weather, anything of that nature. So as you can see, that's kind of on the high side, so that would be that. And then the next calls are call types. So there are a myriad amounts of different call types. So we just break them down into alarms, fires, JAWS, which is motor vehicle, accidents, medical assist, rescue for water, and then mutual aid. So as you can see, we do receive a lot of medical assists. We are able to respond within the municipality a lot of times prior to EMS. So we are able to assist and intervene and assist with the patient. And then when EMS, obviously our professionals, arrive on scene, we're able to give them a very good idea of what transpired, what we've done insofar as intervening, and then assist them in packaging, which is getting the patient assisting them onto the EMS rig and away they go. Sometimes based on the type of call, the incident with the patient, we may have to send one of our members to the hospital in the EMS rig to conduct compressions. So.
Question, Chief.
Yes.
Your JAWS numbers, how many of those are on the 401?
Good question. So out of the 33, and I'll change that next year. I'll make sure that says motor vehicle collision, right? So out of those 33, 21 calls of those are attributed to the 401 and 416. And then out of that, we would bill to the Ministry of Transportation if we actually stop on scene, if we're needed by OPP or we get there first. So just quickly, some of the types of responses that we would actually stay and conduct our business would be obviously fires, hazmat, any spills, cleanup. So sometimes you just have a fender bender and you're going to clean up debris off of the highway so there's not other accidents. Vehicle stabilization, traffic control. Sometimes OPP will ask us to assist them, or if none of the other allied agencies are there, then we'll conduct traffic control just so we ensure we're safe as well. And then extrication as well. So that would be the JAWS of life. And then through that, those amount of calls, we would receive about $5,000 through the Ministry of Transportation. So it works out to $560 per hour per apparatus. And then over the period of time, the ministry will increase that amount. So someone might ask, well, why don't we say and do something? I've always believed in my career is sooner we can get off the highway, get back to our municipality, then that's what we do. So a lot of times, if we're not required, we might get an update from dispatch telling us that. Or, as I said, we've had it where EMS or OPP will just go like that, and away we go. So,
Thank you.
Chief, would there be any calls, all them calls that you just talked about, or all them instances on the 401, they were all billable? Is that?
well, out of those 21 that are on the 401 or 416, 6 of them. Because we actually, as I said, conducted one of those response types that I discussed. So if we don't stop, or we get a lot of, what happens is, honestly, is love cell phones, but a lot of people will see that there's a truck in the ditch from snow storm. We get called, right? And a lot of times what you see, when you see the ribbon on apparatus or vehicles in the driveway, that basically the OPP won't go to those again. They just can't get tow trucks there safely to get those people out. But unfortunately, the people driving by, they just see something in the ditch and they take that call, right? And of course, we still have to respond. So there are times, like I can give you an example, we had 3 calls to the same vehicle. Again, because we don't know exactly where that location is. By the time we get there, it's like, yeah, that's that call. So, and a lot of times as well is when you have a blizzard and it's from, Kingston down to Cornwall, we get inundated with calls, as dispatch does as well, right? So a lot of times it's the actual detail call that tells us where we need to go, right? Because a lot of people don't know the mile markers.
Right.
Like when you're driving on the 401, you see a stick that has a number on it. Well, that's the mile marker, right?
Thank you.
So, yes, thank you.
Oh, Councillor McConnell?
Chief, do you blame dispatch for any calls that you guys go out on that maybe you didn't have to go out on?
Never.
No?
No, it's a good question, but I've always said when in my former life, I always said to dispatch, you can't see the call, right? You're not looking out the window and actually seeing the call. So you're taking the data from someone who's called or another agency, because if it's CAC, which is EMS, or OPP, their dispatch is just gonna roll back to our dispatch, right? So it's just the best information they have, because the amount of liability that dispatch and the city could incur if they didn't send someone out to a call. So it's err on the air of caution and respond. So I wish I could give you a better, because it gets to the point where you can say, you know what, like, I can't believe it calls. But have I once said to dispatch, there's a mile marker 46, whatever, I'm just making up a number. OPP has advised that we're not required, don't, but that's on me. And that can be somewhat on your behalf, but it was 3 calls in one day in the same place, so we knew, right? But that's, like I said, if you can't see it, dispatch just takes the information and sends it out, and then that would be up to whoever to respond. But to not respond can be.
Yeah. So is there any communication between, if I may, is there any communication between you and the police before you go out to say, we don't need you or anything like that?
Yes, so I would say there's probably half a dozen calls where we've got in the apparatus, started, and we're just about ready to go, and dispatch will call us and say, you're not required, right? So it does happen, or EMS calls, because they might have got to the scene. And that's the thing too, is if it's a blizzard, it still takes the OPP, the EMS, or us as long to get there as well, right? And actually we'll go slower because we don't want to end up in the ditch, right? And Insofar as the 401, the transports are still doing their business, getting to their deliveries, and a lot of times they're going through quick. So we just have to make sure we're safe.
Thank you very much.
Right. So, excellent. So fire protection agreement. So what that shows for your pledging viewer is just calls to Augusta and Edwardsburg Cardinal that we respond to based on our fire service agreements. So we don't have specific response types. So if you look at 2023, it would show that we went into Augusta 36 times and Edwardsburg Cardinal 38 times. And that is in a specific geographical area. And the reason why we do that for our neighbors is we are able to respond there quicker. And then if we're not required when they get there, then we would leave. But a lot of times, those are calls that we would just attend. And okay, so on the left, dollar loss. So dollar loss is just an amount based on whether perhaps it was a vehicle fire, structure fire, something like that. What we have to compile is an incident report for each call. And that dollar number is just based on what we feel it would be, and that gets sent to the fire marshal's office. And there's a scale of, say, $100,000 to $150,000 for a house, a residence, and that's just how we compile that. So it's not actually science, but that's kind of where we're at. So as you can see, you know, some years it's lower than others for higher. Obviously, we like to keep our dollar loss down low because that means that we don't have structure fires and things of that nature, but that's part of the deal. And then the next shows our volunteer hours. And I think that is a very interesting and valuable PowerPoint for council to see the amount of hours that the volunteers put in for us. So hours in training, 1,184 hours. So that's the new NFPA training for firefighter training, as well as hazmat training. And then there's our training, whether it's extrication training or our CCAN that we have out behind the operations area where we do fires and rescues. So it keeps our people skill sets high. And then as you can see, then we have actual calls that we spend at fire calls. So we've been able to divide that up. And then when you see committee work, when I talked about air supply and truck committee and SCBA and those things, those are those committees that we have. So they actually on a Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday night, depending on what evening that is, those are hours attributed to that time. So when you see the everyone down there on an evening and we're not out, the trucks aren't out, they're actually conducting their business in the hall, making sure that apparatus and equipment and the SCBA are in working order. And they do that monthly. And then fire prevention, education, and inspections. So that's where Brent, CFPO Norton, and Tracy could go out to businesses, schools, and do inspections. Our vulnerable occupancy that we do at the retirement residence to ensure that they meet fire marshal's egress numbers to get out of the building. And then other. So other could be everything from, of course, I can put my name. So recruitment night that we have, the golf tournament we have, and the EOFA games in Cardinal last year, as well as the Christmas parade. And now that I've been here almost 3 years, to see the amount of time that's put in to the Christmas parade, we actually built a new float that you saw this Christmas. The old one was getting a little worn out, it was over 20 years, and it lasted very well, but just the hours on that, so that just, I like that stuff, because it just tells you everything we do. And then just some pictures.
Sorry, Chief, if I may,
Yeah.
just have a question
Yeah.
about the volunteer hours, the others.
Yes.
I'm sure I know the fire department is very active in the community. And I'm sure those hours that you have in those 789 are hours that you're at, you know, Family Day and Canada Day and
Yes.
stuff like that, right?
Yes.
Okay,
And it's good because, like we had, Family Day, we had several people, at that. And then Canada Day, so those are kind of the staples that we definitely go to, and on the next, picture or slide, it'll show some of those things. So top left would have been, Family Day, or, sorry, July 1st. And then, the firefighter, recruitment day. Ben Hutton with the Stanley Cup just happened to be in the hall before we left to go down the parade, so that was kind of nice to get a picture of that. And then the picture below that is the recruitment night, just out with all of our people there assisting. Top right would be the food bank, Bonnie there, Brent, and Chief Moore and Chief Bowman were there to assist with that. And then Christmas parade, that's the new float. So I just thought it'd be nice to add some pictures as well, just to see kind of what we do. And then it just shows our staffing level right now. So we had 4 people resign in 2023. We had 3 come on board. So we're at 22 members. We will do probably in the spring another recruitment. We've had a few people drop in and get an application, and then I follow up with them, make sure they don't have any questions. We've totally revised our application, shows a little more as to what they would be getting into. And so far as you said, committees and the time in the community, and it's not just about jumping on trucks and going to calls. You know, there's a lot of commitment insofar as time away from family and friends. So, and then to talk to them about how lucky we are to be able to have businesses allow them to leave while they're at work to respond for us, so.
Chief, you had a good news story for me the other day where one of your volunteer professional firefighters has got a job as a professional firefighter. Are you able to share that or no? It's going out west?
He's in the queue.
In the queue.
Yes, so one of our members has had the opportunity to go through the Calgary fire recruitment. And he's got to the end. Now he's waiting for the opportunity to actually come and do the final. But because they've had such a overflow of people retiring, he's in like I think he might be the fall recruitment time. So yeah, he's done everything he needs to do. Poor devil's just waiting, chomping at the bit. So again, to have one of our own go to a very large municipality, fire department is very, very proud. So I spoke with the Calgary recruitment person for probably a good half an hour. I just had a really good conversation, and I always pump up our tires because volunteer department and even small full-time departments, the firefighters that are first class have to do everything. In very large municipalities, they're on the hook or the ladder, and that's what we do, right? Or they're on the rescue or whatever, whereas our people have to know all of it, right? So, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
You lost me there for a second, I didn't pull that one back. So again, I know we had talked about training already on the chart, but I just thought, you know, it gives you just a couple of pictures as far as what they do for training. And then again, some more of the highlights of training, that they do. I mean, the top, picture is the entrapment wiring. So if you were in a building where you had ceiling like this, because a lot of people like this always have a lot of wires up top, right? So if they were brought down, we teach them how to get out of that, right? Because you just can't pull yourself off, and you have to be able to get your way out. So, and we actually, the membership actually built that themselves, right? So which is pretty cool as well. So don't know if you have any questions about any of that, but. And then fire prevention. So I know I did speak to some of those, but there's a few more insofar as what we do. So fire prevention isn't just Fire Prevention Week. It's all year round. So there are some different months that you see we do certain things, but the great thing about having people at the hall and that I always talk to some of our membership and they speak on behalf of fire prevention, just be talking about it in the rink when you're getting changed to go out on the ice, because you might be talking about different things with fire prevention. I know it's great when we go to schools because they'll remember. If you talk about smoke alarms, they'll remember and they will drive their parents insane till the kids do what is right? Because families get busy, right? So it's great to catch people when they're young. So yeah, so if you have any questions on that. There's only 12 more. No, this is the last one. So 2024, I forgot in the slide to mention the on the games, the Eastern Ontario Firefighter Games. They are in June 15th. I know Brent and Chris came here to talk to you about that. So we'll be hosting that. So there'll be a lot of work coming towards that close to the time. The new apparatus, hopefully in June. Still working with the company on that. You see the standards for firefighter 1 and 2. So we will have a 2-course working with Augusta again. Through the regional training center, but again, just to remind you, instead of going up there, they would come to this time. They go to Augusta and train there, and that way, you're close to home. And then I talked about the CCAN that we purchased and use that for training. The community risk assessment is something that I'm working on with Fire Marshal's office, and when I get more detail on that, I would share that with council. It's basically everything you wanted to know about your community insofar as risk and fires and the whole 9 yards. It's not just, it's quite a robust document. And then updating and revising our SOGs. And then finally, hopefully a recruitment in the new year. So we did very well last time. We had 4 people and we got 3, right? So might not have big numbers, but the numbers that we have, it seems that people that are very interested in becoming a member. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions if you have any.
I'll open the floor. Anyone have a question for Chief? Chief, you did such a good job. He did such a good job of letting us ask questions during. We only have one question. Councilor McConnell?
Nothing to do with your presentation, but I saw you guys at the Presbyterian Church today. I hope there's nothing serious there.
No, one of those calls that you get, which was a false alarm, but due to the agency, the monitoring agency. Sometimes maybe they were testing and went and get the call. So, but no problem at all. Good. So,
Thank you, Chief.
thank you.
All right, item 12.2 is staff report 17-2024. the water tower logo update. This report is from our CEO treasurer, Matthew Armstrong. I'm just gonna read the recommendation, then we can discuss it. The council approved the water tower logo as presented in staff report 17/2024. Can I just have a mover and seconder for discussion? Councillor Burton, Councillor Kirkby. Matthew?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And so we, from following our last meeting, we did take a critical second look at the design, and there was some comment around the font, as well as the fact that it would be on the down facing part of the cone in terms of where Prescott would be. So we took that back to the artist, and they came up with this concept. So fairly similar, just kind of moving where Prescott is, removing some of the cross hatch in the window area. And then to the north and the south would have the picture of the bulb in there, or the lens, and east and west wouldn't. So that way, when you're looking at it from the east and west, you're not going to see three bulbs potentially. You would only see the north and the south. And that's, some of the feedback that we took, trying to simplify the design a little bit, and then make Prescott a little bit more prominent, and that would be on four sides of the tower. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Armstrong? All right. I will call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right, the next item is 12.3, staff report 18/2024, the long-term care home redevelopment donation request. Okay. Matthew, why don't we go ahead and speak to the report, and then I'll read the recommendations.
So dealing with Sherwood Park banner first, so at June 19th, 2023, they made a delegation to council. They're embarking on a $42 million redevelopment project. And really that's to provide 21 new beds and then upgrade 75 of their current beds. So with that, they made an original request of 75,000. In the information that we discussed last week, there are some municipalities that have already approved that amount. And in those cases, with the exception of Brockville, they're two-tier municipalities. So in that case, the United Counties is providing an amount per resident for those two-tier municipalities. And then in particular for Augusta and Edwardsburg Cardinal have also approved a separate donation amount. So if you add those two amounts together, because it's counting the same residents and making contributions on behalf of those same residents, then it's $1.91 per resident for 5 years for Augusta and $1.96 for Edwardsburg Cardinal. So if we were to use that exact same concept, then we would be at the 39,500 mark in terms of a midway point between the two amounts. And honestly, there's only $1,000 difference in the per resident amount. So that's kind of how I generated that. So in terms of the options for Sherwood Park, there's the $75,000 amount. If you want to give the same per resident rate as Edwardsburg Cardinal and Augusta, then we were at 39.5, or you can choose a completely different amount. So those are kind of the three options that I thought I would put on the table and just try to explain it as best as possible. So did we want to pause there, or did you want to move on to Maple View?
Let's pause there, deal with Sherwood Park, and move on. All right, so before we can have discussion, let me just read the recommendation. The council approve a one-time donation in the amount of 39,500 to Sherwood Park Manor, support their redevelopment project to be paid in 2024. I guess I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Burton and Councillor Campbell. All right, now we can have discussion. Thank you. Councillor McCollum.
Thank you, Mayor Shanker. Matthew, for anybody listening, and quite frankly, for my benefit as well, you've explained very well how you come up with the roughly $39,000. I don't think it's as clear where the 75 original ask came from. Could you clarify that for us all?
Sure. So they made an original ask from Brockville in particular of $1 million. And so from there, Brockville approved 500,000. They reverse engineered that amount based on the total assessment and the total property taxes generated by the municipality and brought it down to a similar amount of what we would contribute based on that same concept. So if you look at Brockville and the $500,000 that they approved, it's $452 per resident per year for 5 years. And so what they did is they said, so based on that, the city of Brockville has this much assessment and this much of population, and this is their donation. So then they said, what would the equivalent be in Prescott based on the assessment and the property taxes? So they came into a different amount, and that was based on $3.68 per resident, and that's how the $75,000 was generated. Not the easiest thing to explain, which is why I tried to avoid it in the report, because it is a little on the convoluted side, but really that's how the concept went. And so when they went to originally to the United Counties, they were basically asking for $2 per resident, and then they were asking them each municipality about $1. So they kind of use different amounts and different formulas based on your ability to pay, whether you're single tier or 2-tier. But really for us, it's from a single tier perspective, and then kicked us down because we don't have as much property assessment per resident as the city of Brockville does.
You understand it? Got all that?
Yeah, I got the whole thing. At the end of the day, though, in your opinion, should we be paying 39 or 75?
I think, so if I'm to read council's feedback of the last couple of years and us trying to do things that benefit the larger region on the same balance as what our comparators in Augusta and Oversburg Cardinal are doing, then I think the 39.5 makes perfect sense.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor.
Through you, Mayor Shankar. I'll take a stab at this one. So again, I'll speak to Sherwood Park being a nonprofit facility, right? Only receiving funding based on the bed usage, right? Per patient is my understanding, right? I did look at their balance or their books that were online when we first had this discussion and they appeared in front of us. And when you compared them to the other information that was out there for the other homes that were not private residents or private homes like we have in Prescott, by the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were good, and there was a lot less money at the top at Sherwood Park Manor compared to other ones. 39.5 is a number that I can definitely live with. I was kind of in that $50,000 range based on all the information that I just spoke of there. I know we're going to hit Mapleview in a minute, but I'll just say it now while we're speaking on Sherwood. I feel a stronger pull to give more to Sherwood Park Manor than I do Mapleview. So.
Which?
No. I'll leave it there, I guess, for now.
Okay.
It's really not much, but.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, sorry. Did you have your hand up?
I did not. Thank you.
You want to go again?
Sure. It's something that I was going to ask before, but I didn't, but maybe I will now. I thought maybe somebody else would bring it up, quite frankly, but we're kind of in the midst of a budget deliberation here. Well, maybe we're a little farther along than the midst. We're getting closer to the end. And I can't help but recall that when we went through the list of things that we would all like to do individually. You know, there's several actually. And the funding for these, a lot of them are coming from reserves. It's suggested that the funding for the 39,000 come from reserves from the sale of property that we had. Reserves are there for a reason, and they accumulate for various reasons. But I'm a little concerned with the amount of projects that I've seen where the funding is coming out of reserves this year. And I would like, and Matthew, I apologize for not popping this to you this afternoon. So I don't expect an answer this evening, but I would be curious to know with the projects that we are likely going to go ahead with this year, and including these here this evening, how much are we actually looking at pulling from reserves this year? And how much are we putting into reserves this year? Because, well, there's only so many reserves, and having been here for a while, I realized that if one council pulls all the reserves, that kind of buries another council as far as going forward goes. Now, I don't believe that's happening here, but I believe we should have some kind of a handle on it to see where we are. Thank you.
Thank you.
And again, I don't expect that answer tonight.
Okay. I'm just going to speak on this Sherwood Park Manor. I know I had my questions about it, and I did express that last week, but when we compared our donation to similar type municipalities like Augusta and Edwardsburg Cardinal, and being on the same level, then I was very comfortable with it. So I'm okay with that. So if there's no further questions, I'm going to call the question on this one. I'll just read it again. The council approved a one-time donation in the amount of $39,500 to Sherwood Park Manor to support their redevelopment project to be paid in 2024. All in favor?
Can I ask a question before you?
Another question? Yeah.
It's a legitimate question. They're asking for so much over so many years. We're offering a certain amount in one shot. Why are we doing that?
Well, I think it's because we have that money from the sale of Churchill Road.
Well, I know we have it. Would it not be a little more reasonable to give them a third, and a third through the rest of our council, or
The
half
other
and a
thing
half?
we didn't speak of was not hindering future councils.
Well, that's why I say a third and a third of a third, because we got this
3 years.
second of third years.
So we can absolutely do it either way. If we want to do it this year, it's off the books, we can move forward. I can foresee that we will be discussing like requests in 2025 and 2026. So that was kind of one of the reasons, just get it done, get it out the door, and then it's not something that we'd have to go back and account for. I'm more than happy to either do that over the next 3 years, the next 5 years, or however council wishes to proceed.
Well, I agree with you, not going over the term of the council. That's from a previous term.
I mean, we could do the same with the next recommendation. We could do the same thing, or we just pay it. We got it, pay it. Let's move on. No, we're not discussing it.
Well, move the motion. We'll see what happens.
Okay. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right. Want to go ahead then with the second one?
So next one is Maple View. Report. Review landing, sorry. So they came to council in September. Similar requests. They're going through an $80 million redevelopment in Athens to Maple View Lodge, and they are requesting each municipality support the project for $1 per resident for 3 years. So for the municipality of Prescott, that comes to $12,000 was the request. It's completely run by the United Counties, who support a fair amount of the operational side from a subsidy standpoint. And to date, Rideau Lakes, Athens, Fredericton, Miracle, Wolford, and Augusta have committed to the donation request. Town of Gallinock has declined, and all other municipalities are reviewing it as part of the 2024 budget conversions.
All right, so I'm just going to read the recommendation and then we can have a discussion. The council approve a one-time donation in the amount of $12,000 to Mapleview Landings to support their redevelopment project to be paid in 2024. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor McConnell and Councillor Young. Any discussion? Councillor Kirkland.
Through you, Mayor Shankar. You know where I stand on this one, but what I would say is we have $50,000 in the reserve here, right? The fiscal policy. I would think that we would just go to the 10,500 and use, sorry.
Yeah.
That would be correct, 10,500 to make the even 50,000 then.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Young?
Thank you, Shankar. I just, one of the things that impressed me about Mapleview when they did their presentation was how you could transition perhaps a couple, and maybe the husband didn't need as much care as the wife kind of thing, but they could both be at the same facility, just in different. And I thought that was really impressive, that you could actually stay at the same place and just transition as your care required it.
Very nice.
To you, Mayor Shankar. Is that not a resolution you talked about at one time earlier, a few months ago, where that's actually coming into effect across old age homes, I think, across Ontario? Or Councillor Lockett?
Spoke about that.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. So do you want to put a motion forward to amend this motion to 10.5 or leave it at 12? I think that's the proper procedure, right? That's right.
Well, we'll see if we'll get support on it.
Okay, so how about I call the question? I'll see that.
Yes.
Can we do that?
So you're moving an amending motion? Is that what's happening or no? No, okay.
No, it didn't sound like it. Just go with it. Okay. So I'll just read it again. The council approve a one-time donation in the amount of $12,000 to Mapleview Landings to support their redevelopment project to be paid in 2024. All in favor?
I had one more question.
I call the question. Okay, Carrie.
Okay.
Go. You want to ask a question?
Yes, I just want to make sure that it's over that indicates that it's over the 3 years, so they won't be asking us.
No, they won't ask us.
Okay.
Hey, Mark. All right, thanks, everyone. 12.4 is staff report 19-2024. The draft 2024 to 2027 strategic plan, public feedback results. This report is just for information only, and Mr. Armstrong, you have the floor.
Very much, Mr. Mayor. So what you have before you is the so we took it verbatim. So anything that was submitted, we did not correct anything. We did not change anything. This is what came in. So there's quite a few pages there that reflect people's thoughts and ideas. There's a total of 38 survey responses, 2 are in hard copy, 36 are in electronic, and then the health unit also submitted their thoughts and ideas. More than happy to kind of answer any questions there might be on that, but I'm there, so more than happy to review it as we go forward.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Armstrong? Ms. Campbell?
Through you, Mayor Shankar. So with all these suggestions, is it possible, I know they're not going to be directives or what we called strategies that we were going to do, but could they be included as part of activities down the road?
That's sort of quick. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, this is a strategic plan as opposed to an implementation plan or the action plan from the strategic plan itself. So when I was going through, I could see none of the items that were addressed in the strategic plan itself or would be addressed as part of the action plan that would follow the strategic plan. There's some things in here though that's just either beyond our area of expertise or something that we can even do with. And then in other areas, it would be better addressed by another organization, which would be happy to pass on.
So you mentioned action plans, and is that something that council gets into in terms of our projects, or
So
how does
staff,
that happen?
staff would create the action plan coming out of the strategic plan. We presented to council for feedback and input.
Okay.
But unless there's a specific project, I think if you can narrow in on that, then I could kind of answer it in more detail as opposed to working generalities.
No, I just noticed some commonalities in terms of the comments, in terms of accessibility, in-town transportation, climate change, neighborhood parks, trails, et cetera. I was really interested in the health unit's response because they really delved into, and they highlighted in bold the kind of things that would help a community in terms of the determinants of health for a community. So I just wondered how that all gets discussed, and
This is the opportunity to discuss it and for council to determine what they wish to change to the current plan.
okay, but what I'm asking, and I think I agree with you, is that it is more of a lower, an extra level for action plans, so.
So it would need to be addressed as part of the strategic plan. So in the strategic plan, there's the priorities, the objectives, and the strategies. If it's not covered in there, then I wouldn't expect it to make the action.
Okay.
So as long as it's covering one of those, then certainly, we can make the case for that. Other than one or two comments about in-town transportation, I didn't see any other comments on that. Some of the ones that you highlighted, I saw it mentioned a couple of times. Something that was, a pressing item in a lot of areas.
So as long as the word is in the strategic plan, as part of those strategies, then we can flesh that out bigger later on.
I would say so, but at the same time, when you take a look at that plan, there's a lot in there already. So if we're looking for a laundry list of everything that we're going to do in the next 2 or 3 to 4 years, I think that's going to get pretty extensive quickly.
Okay, so my input then is to, in terms, there's a lot of feedback about climate change, and there was a lot of feedback about heritage. So once again, I know those words are in there, so I'm trusting that we will be looking at initiatives in those 2 areas.
The will of council.
Thank you.
Councillor Quigley?
Through you, Mayor Shankar. I didn't know, Matthew, is this the time? Are you going through the whole thing, or you've pretty much spoke to it here?
I've spoken.
Yep.
So you're done.
So I would say, I reviewed this and 38 responses. That's less than the negative feedback we get on Facebook. You know what I mean? From people that, always have something to say. So I was a little surprised at the low responses. What I saw, actual data here, was 17 mentions of tourism, 9 mentions of affordable housing, 6 being for seniors. Some of the comments that I would like to call out, a couple was, I didn't even read it yet. There's stuff in here where, you know, it's hard to take serious and some of it not. You know, an indoor pool, right, is anywhere from $5 to $10 million with an operating loss of $300,000 to $500,000 per year, right? And I have seen that on Facebook a few times, and then I've seen it here. Bring more cute shops to the downtown. And I got thinking, well, geez, we have Once 426, we have Cozy Closet, we have River Home Company, Old Magic, Quality Creations, Laurel and Lace, Craft Boutique. Yeah, I mean, we have shops and we have been putting them down there. A lack of funding in the downtown, obviously, you know, people aren't maybe aware of the CIP program that's being used to beautify the downtown and can be used for heritage, right? One of the big ones also that I saw was recreational, and you know, there was a lot of good feedback on recreation to continue growing it and capitalizing on the new arena and the new hotel. You know, I thought overall, when you read it and you took a real good look at it, you know, the housing, aging population, stuff like that, it kind of speaks to where I feel like the majority of council is putting their effort and chips into the hat, in my opinion. Climate change is a responsibility for every municipality and every level of government. I mean, I think the town has demonstrated that by going to solar lights, doing upgrades at the water facility and wastewater management, reducing the amount of water needed to perform the cleans and the intake process, reducing the electricity needed. So I think a lot of times when people say climate change, they want to see something, boom, just flashing downtown that says, wow, we've really done this. But if you started to trace back some of the improvements that have been made in the operations, and we've all been to the wastewater and the water facility, if you started tracing back the carbon footprint reduction, I think people would be surprised on how much climate change work has already been done. So, yeah, I mean, for me, another one was lack of employment opportunities. Just last week, we had CSE at the Leo Boyven Community Center. There was over 50 companies there looking for work. There was one out in Kemple. There's another one coming in Brockville. I mean, there's jobs, and you know, maybe at times people get lost on how to find them jobs, or it seems too big of a hill to climb. But you know, I think there was some really good feedback in here, and I think there was some comments in here that just were driving the negative tone, and people hadn't done their homework to really know what the pulse is of the community. So that's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Mary, you want to?
Just to add, if there's opportunities to involve the community in projects, like all these things you mentioned are great and we're doing a great job, but to make the community feel that they're contributing as a whole is a good project, whether it's a community garden or clean up the whatever. It's hopefully we can entertain some projects that would involve the whole community.
Like, can you give us an example?
Well, just if we did a community garden, if a community group would raise funds so we could put an accessible swing in a park. We don't always have to do everything for people. They're very willing out there to contribute and
Well, our door is always open. They can always come in and provide a delegation or make an appointment or talk to staff. We'd love to. I've been championing for that all times. If we can have community involvement, that'd be great. So I'm glad you're on the same page.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Shankar. I think that's a good point, Mary, but it takes, right, just to echo your point there, is it takes the community to get involved to do that, right? It's not up to council or staff to kick off these kind of groups, right? I'll use the community garden, the folks over at the, forgive me here, I think it's the St. John's, thank you. Lee, I knew you'd know. And it's, the garden they have there is a great project, right? It's a great demonstration of a group that came together and started that. And I don't even think, like, they got it up and running and still haven't really came before council to explain what's going on there, but they've done a great job, right? So.
Yeah, it just creates more ownership and pride in the town, I guess.
Well, anyone else? Councillor McConnell?
It was interesting to read through those pages because what I found was the bulk of what I was reading were the same things that were expressed at our strategic planning session that we had on that Saturday out at the rink. But I kind of liken it to the wish list that we give to Matthew every year about things we would like to see, knowing full well that we can't afford to do all of them or maybe even most of them, because some of them may be $5,000, some of them may be 5 million. The items that I noticed on these pages here that seem kind of off the wall, oh, that's a bad way to put it. Not feasible, I guess would be a better way to put it, in my opinion anyway, were largely because as a member of council and like the rest of you and like staff, I have a better knowledge of what we can do. So if you are a member of the public and don't have the knowledge available to you that we as councillors have, there's some things that you may think is just a thing that we can go ahead and do, but there may be a very good reason why we can't do it. And it might even be a provincial regulation that says we can't do that type of thing. But there's nothing wrong with wish lists. And whenever you see a wish list from the public, it's something that you should pay attention to. Having been in small business before for the better part of my working life, I know those folks want to see more stores down street. Well, of course you want to see more stores down street, but they don't appreciate the fact of how much money it takes to operate a store, how many hours it takes to operate a store. And at a point, it's just not affordable because you don't have the amount of people coming in the door. It's like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, if you don't have a store, people aren't going to come. If people don't come, you're not going to have a store. Which goes first? As an entrepreneur, you can only lose money for so long, and you have to be prepared to lose money when you open a business. But there is a point where you're going to say enough. And unfortunately, that's what happens in a lot of cases of small business. But I think this is a worthwhile project, even though we only had, as Justin mentioned, what was it, 38 people, and one of those was from highway number 2, which I think is outside of town. I thought that was a little strange, but all these people mean well with their suggestions, and we should take them as they're provided. But a lot of them, Mary mentioned the parks, housing. Everybody realizes we need housing, and it's not just housing, because when you look around town, our housing and our people, they really don't equate. We have small populations inhabiting large houses. And when I look around my neighborhood, I just look up and down the street and I say, okay, well, that house had 4 people in it when I was a kid, that had 6, and now has 1, and now has 2. It's not that we don't have the housing, it's that people are overhoused today. And I'm not going to blame them, because I live in my house where we had 4 or 5 people. Now we have 2, but I enjoy my house. I grew up there. Nobody should have to say that I'd have to move. But we need smaller, less expensive housing. And that's for people who want to get out of those large houses, or for people who want to get into the housing market and can't afford to buy a big house when it does come to the market. So all those things are in there. They're suggested by those 38 people. We've looked at most of them already and are aware of them, but I think it's worth noting that it is coming from the public. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's good that that we had some public input. Our strategic plan was open to the public, so maybe next time we'll let them know and they can come to that. Anything else, Matthew, on that? No? All right, thank you. That was for information only. Okay, moving along, 13 is resolutions. We have a resolution under 13.1 for the appointments to the Prescott Heritage Committee. The recommendation reads that council appoint the following members to the Prescott Heritage Committee for the remainder of the term of council. Mr. Scott Hubbard and Jamie McPhee. I'm just going to call, I need a mover. Councilor Kirkby and a second, Councilor Campbell. Any questions on this discussion? All in favor? Thank you. And I just want to say we had five people apply, which is a good sign. It's nice for us to get people applying, and then we can take the best possible, hopefully, committee members. So that's carried. Thank you. All right. 14 is bylaws. There's one item under bylaws tonight. It's item 14.1, amending council appointments. A recommendation that reads that bylaw 10-2024 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 45-2023, being a bylaw to appoint members of council to boards and commissions, to appoint members of councils to the committees of council, and the appointments of deputy mayor for the remainder of 2023 and the year 2024 be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, and sealed by the seal of corporation. Mover and seconder, please. Councilor McConnell and Councilor Burton. All in favor? Carried, thank you. No new items under new business tonight. But we do have a couple of resolutions that were brought forward. So we have 4 of them. First one is item 15.1 is a resolution from Prince Edward County regarding the extended lifespan of fire apparatus. That was brought forward by Councillor Campbell.
So this resolution from Prince Edward County was passed on January 22nd, 2024. Basically, it's talking about insurance and the lifespan of fire apparatus. So there is no provincial funding available for new fire trucks. And across the board, whether you're a large urban center or small rural center, they've set standards where a certain truck has to end its life, not based on whether it's still running, but the amount of years that you can get out of it. So this resolution asked the province to expand the lifespan of fire apparatus, especially fire trucks, and called for the creation of a new community fire protection and fire prevention insurance system that includes distinct categories for rural and urban municipalities, not under the same umbrella. And I asked Chief Rayner if they want to add anything to that.
Your worship, Mary, I think you hit it out of the park. I do agree. As long as we ensure that we have our annual inspections and that those apparatus that if are able to be extended have a network of parts and proper technicians. I know that sounds crazy, but for example, there may be an apparatus that is no longer supported through a manufacturer because they're not in business anymore. So sometimes, you can get over-the-counter parts, but a lot of times, it's specific to that. But I think it is a very well resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the motion.
Mayor Shanker, I do a draft resolution that council of the corporation of the town of Prescott supports the resolution from the county of Prince Edward regarding provincial support to expand the lifespan of fire apparatus, specifically pertaining to the replacement of fire trucks due to insurance requirements, and that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities FCM, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, and all municipalities in Leeds and Grenville.
Do you want to make that motion?
Yes, please.
Seconded by Councillor Kirkby. All in favor? Carried? Okay. All right, item 15.2 is a resolution from the city of Brantford regarding reliable and accessible public rail transit, CN Rail. Councillor Kirkby, this one's yours.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Shankar. This resolution speaks to the priority given to CN Rail freight systems over passenger rail systems. The need for reliable and efficient passenger rail service, and the disregard CN Rail has for municipal property maintenance and providing timely responses to the development applications located near rail lines. So definitely a few items there that hit close to home for Prescott. CN Rail shows little regard for municipalities, which has demonstrated time and again over a broad range of subjects. As a federal entity, the Government of Canada is the only body that can hold them to account.
All right, any questions or you have the motion?
I do have a draft motion here through you, Councillor, or Mayor Shankar, that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Prescott supports the resolution from the City of Brantford regarding reliable and accessible public transit, CN Rail, and that a copy of this resolution be sent to MP Michael Barrett, MPP Steve Clark, the Federal Minister of Transportation, the Provincial Minister of Transportation, President and CEO of Metrolinx, President and Chief Executive Officer of Via Rail Canada Incorporated, and President and Chief Executive Office of CN and all municipalities in Leeds and Grenville.
You'll move that and seconded by Councillor Young. All in favor? Carried, thank you. All right, the next one is item 15.3, resolution from the County of Brantford regarding rural and small urban municipalities and the affordability of water and wastewater system. All yours.
Thank you once again, Mayor Shankar. This resolution reviews the requirements and standards outlined in the provincial policy statement and by the Ministry of Environment, Protection and Conservation regarding development, site alteration, redevelopment, protection of the environment, and minimizing the risks to human health when considering municipal water sewage services and water services. The long story here is a significant portion of water and wastewater treatment systems are fixed costs. And for those that have a small number of users, including Prescott, it means the cost per cubic meter treated is relatively high compared to the medium and large systems. When considering development applications, it takes time for the application to approval, to tendering for infrastructure projects is very lengthy, usually 2 to 3 years. By the time it comes out, the quote pretty much from the provincial government is 2 to 3 years old and is much lower than the actual cost, resulting in a greater share of the overall project being funded by the municipality. So the difference is not covered by the federal and provincial government, falls back onto the municipalities. So,
Okay. Any questions for Councillor Kirkby? Oh, Councillor McConnell?
It's not a question, it's a comment. I don't disagree with anything you said. I read that and I agree with it completely, but we seem to, and we have for generations, lost complete track of the fact that dozens of our Aboriginal communities have no drinking water whatsoever unless they boil it. And yeah, it's nice to put these things in front of the government and get them to give us more money, but the people in our north that have the piss poor drinking water still get left by the wayside. And I don't see those things coming through council for any kind of support at all. Thank you.
through you, Mayor Shankar. I would think this would speak to all of them in a sense, right? They're all municipalities or, well, I guess in reservations, right? I mean, what we're saying here is that the funding needs to be adequate for all municipalities on the lower scale, medium scale, right? Compared to the bigger ones.
All right, do you have the motion?
No,
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Shankar. The Council of the Corporation of the Town of Prescott supports the resolution from the County of Renfrew regarding rural and small urban municipalities' affordability of water and wastewater systems, and that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Infrastructure Ontario, the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, Infrastructure and Communities Canada, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks Ontario, MP Michael Barrett, MPP Steve Clark, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, ROMA, and all municipalities in Leeds and Grenville.
It's a big carbon copy.
glad she had to read that.
Yeah, move that.
Yes,
Seconded by Councillor Burton. All in favor? Carried, thank you.
Yeah.
And last, 15.4 is a resolution from Prince Edward County regarding review of the Ontario Works and Ontario Disability Support Program financial assistance rates.
To you, Mayor Shankar, just before I read this, next time if anybody else wants one of these, just let me know. So this is, came from the town of Orangeville. This resolution is calling on the, outlines the purpose of Ontario Works and the Ontario Disability Support Program, the lack of increase in rates since 2018, and the potential risks for many to fall into homelessness and poverty. This resolution is calling on urgent action from the province to develop, resource, and implement a plan to address the rising levels of poverty in Ontario. Some of the other items that are not captured on here that I would like to add to it is I'd like to see that the earnable wages under the Ontario Works be increased without clawbacks. The rent allowance to be increased. And then incentives, clear incentives for people to leave the Ontario Works. You know, there needs to be a clear incentive to leave the program, i.e. health benefits. Lots of times people leave Ontario Works, they go find part-time job, you know, or they just get above that threshold and they're not eligible for benefits, low-cost childcare, you know, and one of the big ones I found was a study done by C.D. Howe Institute in 2020. It's called Lifting Lives. The problem with Ontario Social Assistance Program and how to reform them. And I sent that link to Mayor Shankar and Matthew, and it really had some good points in there. And I think we've all seen it. You know, there's a need to react before it gets worse. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a motion now?
Yes, so through you, Mayor Shankar, Councillor Kirkby, it sounded like you had a couple additions you wanted to make to the motion.
I did.
Okay, so I was looking at something when you started, so I believe you had 3 additions.
Yep.
Can you repeat the first
Yep.
one?
So increase the allowable or the earnable wages without clawbacks for Ontario Works. Increase the rent allowance. And then,
Clear incentives to leave the program.
yeah.
So the draft resolution that I have is that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Prescott supports the resolution from the County of Prince Edward regarding support for review of the Ontario Works and Ontario Disability Support Program financial assistance rates. And with the added trying to think of recommendation. What's the right word? Let's see. Sorry, it's a moment. No, let me see.
We should have said this.
Okay. Yeah, look at it. Okay, and call on the provincial government to, increase rent allowance for the program. Outline clear incentives to leave the program and increase the earnable wages without clawbacks for Ontario Works.
Correct, thank you.
Okay, and that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Minister of Children, Community and Social Services, the Minister of Health, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO, the Ontario Municipal Social Services Association, the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, and all municipalities in Leeds and Grenville.
Good. Moved by Councillor Kirkby, seconded by Councillor Burt. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Good job.
I'm tied. Big under pressure.
All right, there's no notices of motion, no proclamations. No media? No media, no closed session. So therefore, item 21 is the confirming bylaw. The recommendation reads that bylaw 11-2024, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held today, March 4th, 2024, be read and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk and sealed by the seal of the corporation. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Campbell, Councillor Lockett, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Last one is adjournment. The recommendation reads that the meeting be adjourned to Monday, March 18th, 2024 at 6 p.m. The time is now 7:27. Moved by Councillor Kirkby, seconded by Councillor Young. All in favor?